The big test. There are a couple really significant things that start to drop into your life when you are moving across the bridge, I will say, out of this has always been me. I'm the person who never gets the big break. This is my old identity. This is the thing I want to move, get rid of, whatever, do a million like letting go of rituals, whatever it might be. When you're moving across the bridge from that old architecture to a completely new baseline frequency, a new somatic experience, a new current that is not just who you are becoming, but what your physical lived reality looks like. Okay. There is some very important information that starts to change that can give you feedback about which side of the bridge you're actually on and whether or not you're kind of troodling across the bridge or if you're still stuck in an old current. Now, initially, when you're on this side of the bridge, you kind of tiptoe onto the bridge and back down, and the hook, the pull of what has always been you is really, really strong. But when you start to actually move over into embodying this whole new identity, this whole new idea of who it is you are now realizing you actually always were underneath there. Okay. This is why I keep saying that it's not that you're just constructing a new identity, you're actually remembering your baseline identity as you always were. Okay. Part of what starts to happen and what I've noticed in beautiful people around me, friends, clients, fellow entrepreneurs, what I'm noticing is that often when the tipping point starts to really move the needle to make your lived, breathed experience really delicious and transformative, often when that needle starts to go over, this is when I'll say we, because, I have been guilty of this. This is when we miss really important information the most. What do I mean by that? What I mean is something will start coming in, something really wonderful, something really beautiful will start dropping in. I was talking to a beautiful friend today who was telling me that she was offered this role that she absolutely loves. She was headhunted by somebody else who said, "Hey, you would be amazing at this. You would absolutely kill at this role. Would you like to oversee it? Would you like to take this responsibility?" Okay. And what she did is initially she was like, "Oh my gosh, yes, please. That sounds amazing." Then a very close friend of hers who also had been vying for the role and secretively hoping that she would be chosen started kind of moaning and groaning and getting grumpy and being like, "It's not fair. I never get chosen. Why is it not my turn?" Etc. etc. Okay. I'm going somewhere important with this. So what did this friend of mine do? Instead of being like, "Oh, okay, well, that's your thing to manage," what she did was she spiraled into guilt, shame, stress, overwhelm, a sense of, and this is the biggest problem, way over indexed empathy. Okay. Way, 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 way too much empathy. A sense of like guilt and shame because why did she get chosen and not her friend? So she went to the people who had offered her the role and said, "Listen, it doesn't have to be me. It's really okay if you guys give it to somebody else. And, I recommend this person," her friend. And she started going into this whole thing where she then tried to convince these people, like, "Hey, actually, it was really cool of you to think of me, but, never mind." I immediately called her out on this and I said, "Oh my gosh, you are doing so much intentional work to change the dynamic of your life where you are not the peripheral throwaway, doesn't get chosen, doesn't get the limelight on her, doesn't get the delicious experience opportunity thrown at her feet, girl. You've worked so hard. You are working so deeply and intentionally on the inside to calibrate to a whole new version of you. And then something actually comes in to tell you it's working. All of this inner work you're doing, it's shifting your physical landscape. And the first thing she does is say, no, thank you. The first thing she does is drown in an old archetype of her think and her feel body, feeling obligated to prefer others and throw herself aside, create a typhoon of a mess, and pretty much tells her life, her world, whatever it might be, fill in the blanks, no thanks. Send somebody else, pick somebody else, knock on somebody else's door. Why is this annoying me so much today? Because I am noticing with a very fine tooth comb that in the most subtle ways, when things start to like drip feed in that are signs, some kind of hint that, oh my gosh, my landscape is actually changing. Something in my real world is reflecting the love that I deserve. It is reflecting the devotion that I deserve. It is reflecting the peace that I deserve, the abundance that I deserve, the honor for my work and the recognition that I deserve, whatever it might be for you. This sort of, and I'll call it a test, doesn't come in with bells and whistles. No, I call it a test because it's almost like the field, which is what I'm calling your new landscape, is coming in to just nudge you a little bit to test like this thing she's been asking for. Let's just give her this tiny version of it and let's see if she can actually hold it. But no, many of us, especially empaths, sensitive souls, many of us have become so accustomed to calibrating our entire systems to hold suffering that when real joy, abundance, peace, grace, deliciousness comes in, we have very little to no capacity to expand our receivers so that we can actually hold that new current.